If your house is like mine, we love cartoon movies. Be it Disney or Pixar or DreamWorks, we have a lot of fun with them. My kids have several of the action figures, and it's not uncommon at all to see them come downstairs dressed as their favorite character. And one of the costumes we see a lot is the character of Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story. Can you guess what my kids will say when they're dressed and acting like Buzz? Well, they put their hands on their hips and they say, "To infinity and beyond." It's a great line, isn't it? And Buzz is a great character. But the problem is, that line doesn't make any sense. Do you know what the word infinity means? It means that something is without limits or without end. It just keeps going and going and going so that there would be no way for you to ever go beyond. Well, when the Bible reveals God to us, it says that God is infinite, that He is without end or without limits. You know what that means? That at no time will you ever be able to fully understand God. You will also never be able to adequately describe Him. When the Bible talks about God's power, it says His power is infinite, that it has no end. So we can talk about how powerful God is, but we could never fully explain that power. It's also true of what God knows. His knowledge is without limits. You know, the Bible says that God knows the exact number of hairs on your head, and not just your head, but the head of every single person on this planet. Isn't that amazing? We're even told that God is infinite in His presence, that He is present at every single place in the universe, that right now, He is in California, He is in Australia, and He's even right there right now with you. In Romans 11, Paul's talking about the great things that God has done, and he just busts out into a song saying, "Oh, the depths of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are His judgments and how unfathomable are His ways." So Paul is talking about God and he's overwhelmed and just says His knowledge is so deep and so great. His judgments are unsearchable and His ways we can't even begin to understand. When we talk about God being infinite, we aren't just talking about limits as far as what He can and can't do. We're talking about the fact that He can't be limited by others. When we think of Superman, a comic book character who is so strong and so fast and can fly, but how do you limit Superman? Well, it takes kryptonite, doesn't it? That's his weakness. And if you have kryptonite, Superman is limited. Well, God has no kryptonite. He has no limits. He has no weaknesses. My wife and kids used to argue about who loved each other more. Laura would say, "I love you times a million." And my kids would respond, "We love you times a billion." "Well, I love you times infinity." "We love you infinity plus one." Well, that game could go on and on and on. We could never reach the end. Well, that's how God is. His power is times infinity. His knowledge is times infinity. His presence is times infinity. And you may think that and say, "I don't understand." And let me tell you, that's good news. Isn't it great to have a God in heaven who is more powerful than we could ever know? Who knows every single thing about us? Who is present everywhere? And who still loves you more than you could possibly imagine? That's the kind of God we want, isn't it? It may be frightening to you to know that God is infinite, that He can do whatever He wants and no one could stop Him. But when you think about what the Bible tells us, that not only is God infinite, but that He loves you so much, then it becomes great news. Great news that the one who loves you is always with you. That wherever you go, be it at the tip top of the highest mountain, or if you swim down into the deepest part of the sea, even if you try to fly to infinity and beyond, even there, God is with you. Throughout this month, we're going to talk about God's infinite character, His power, His knowledge, and His presence. As a family, why don't you spend a few minutes reading through and discussing what God tells us about Himself in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verses 25 and 26. Next month, we will talk about what it means that our God is eternal. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.